Hello, everyone. Here we are for Joy Workout number 26. And I'm very excited about this one because some new thoughts are emerging in me that I'm putting words to. So I'm excited. I'm a little bit nervous. So please bear with me. And if you have any questions, please ask. I want you to know that we're going to, that I want to refer to the, in the 12 practices. In practice number 1, we have the different elements of joy-based living. We have things, community, desires, emotions, life itself, that each of these elements influence us in every single moment. And in much of the, in many of the 12 practices, we're referring to emotions a lot. And so we have, the emotional ladder here, emotional scale, I also call it. And you can use these kind of in combination. Like you can ask yourself, well, how do I feel about my community? How do I feel about myself? How do I feel about my things? How do I feel about my desires? I'm going a little fast there, I know, but you can take time to reflect more later. I'm kind of introducing the questions right now. How do I feel about my emotions themselves? How do I feel about life? And so by doing that, you can it's an assessment of where you are. It's just an assessment of where you are and where you want to grow, where you have room for growth. So if you say, well, with my community, I'm feeling like on the higher end of the spectrum, but with my emotions, I'm feeling more in the middle or the lower. You can see where you are and see where you want to lift more. What does this have to do with pride and faith? Oh my gosh. Okay. So I was listening to someone speak the other day who, Richard Grant, and he talks about post-traumatic stress and narcissistic abuse and things like that. And he was talking about how so much of psychology is descriptive more than it is prescriptive. So descriptive means, in the sanctuary book, there's a description of complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So you can go, oh, if I face that and deal with it and be with it, because most people on the planet are having to deal with it on some level anyway. I'm not abnormal for it, but if I have an extreme case of it, or if I know someone else who does, or even if I have a lighter case of it and I just want to release it, I can learn what are emotional flashbacks, what are the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn responses to stress. We all do these things. And so how do we get more access to, control of our own sense of well-being? Well, isn't that desire itself right there? That's desire, right? It's right over there. So, okay, pride and faith. So Richard Grant was comparing descriptive psychology to he was kind of wishing it would be more prescriptive. So here's what you do. Well, a lot of the solutions in psychology have a lot of reasonableness to them, where if you stretch further, do you ever have like a really big dream, a really big possibility, a really big desire? Those really, really, really large, grand desires don't usually fit within the confines of psychology. When you go into larger desires, which when you start increasing joy, your desires will naturally grow with you. When your desires naturally grow, you're going to either experience more joy or you're going to experience frustration, right? If you feel like those are thwarted. So that our desires kind of lift us, help us rise up to the more that we can be. So then we start elevating ourselves into the realm of faith. And so that's where we have the joy-based living trifecta. We have on one hand, healing trauma, right? Or self-connection. That's the way we heal trauma is through self-connection. Then we have spiritual connection. Why don't we put the word faith inside of that bubble as well? Like, you're having to have faith. If you're going to have spiritual connection, that's going to require faith in you, faith from you to believe in something bigger. And then we have peak performance. Peak performance comes when you have a desire that is really clear to you, and you have connection with yourself and faith in something bigger. So let me say it in a different way that I think will bring it home. When you think about the soil that, like, from where we have like all of our fruit growing from, the trees and the flowers and all these things that are like little miracles, right? When you think about the soil, most people don't usually associate the soil with here's the bridge. I'm making a comparison to like when we have desires. Thank you for bearing with me here. When you think about the soil and what the soil does, you don't usually feel proud of the soil. Like, I don't know anybody who goes, oh my God, I'm so proud of the soil for all that it does. This conversation about pride started because I had a conversation with one of our members, and it was really juicy, good conversation. Now, pride is in the middle over here of our emotional scale. It's lower than acceptance and courage and willingness. Acceptance, courage, and willingness is the gateway between the lower feelings and the higher feelings. And what she was saying was, she was reading the book Letting Go by David Hawkins because I recommended it to her. And her buttons were so pushed by the pride chapter. And because if you've been living a lot of your life here and you land in pride, that is a huge, big, gigantic step up. That's like great. So pride isn't bad. None of these feelings are. But if you want to experience joy and love and the higher vibration emotions, this actually is a sticking place. You get stuck there. You'll be imprisoned by it. So I want you to think about an unreasonable dream or wish or desire that you have, like something that's really like it feels out of reach. Like for me, I'll give you one. I have a dream that millions and millions of children will be listening to the Get fairy tales that I've written and that Vito's done the beautiful cover art for, right? Like it's huge. Like, so if I tie myself to a feeling of pride for that to happen, that pride will get in the way of my faith of not knowing how it's going to happen, but staying tuned into the dream, feeling in love with it. If I feel in love with it, if I feel in love with the possibility, that's no different than a gardener feeling in love with imagining what their garden's going to look like. Like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so cool. So you imagine it and then you plant the seeds for it, right? So if I imagine this and I let the imagine and the feeling of love fill me, the next step I take is going to be inspired action. But if I go, oh my gosh, I really, 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 like, I see this, I feel this, and I go, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I try to force it into place. The forcing it into place will come from pride. It will come from worry. So am I making sense? So it will take away from the intuition and magic working on my behalf. Do you ever have like a really, like a big problem and then a solution just comes out of nowhere? Either you think of it or it comes to your lap. And you're like, oh my gosh, thank goodness, thank goodness. So if I choose to believe that my desires, my largest desires, come from someplace much bigger than me, which they do because they fill my heart with so much love, then what if I lean into that same energy of, oh my gosh, that's so cool, of feeling in love with the possibility. And the feeling in love with the possibility, I'm going to make another bridge for you here, and I think you're going to like this. So in the Sanctuary book, we talk about the importance of validation and mirroring when somebody is feeling something, especially if they've been through trauma or pain or difficulty. Um, People who have dealt with CPTSD know what it's like to not be mirrored and not be validated, and know how alone that can feel, and know what it's like to have to go like into their own inner closet, and then you have to learn how to undo that and take off the pressure. Well, what about the other side of it? What about when you have really big dreams? um on one hand, you can keep it to yourself deep, 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 deep inside, where it can like take root. But at some point, you're going to have to share it with people, because no big dream is possible to create all by yourself. Well, what I don't know, I didn't have this as a rule of thumb, but I guess I kind of did without realizing it. If I share my big dream with someone, who do I want that person to be? I want that person to be someone who is going to validate the love that I feel for that possibility, to mirror that. Well, that's going to require that I'm surrounded or I have somebody in my life who has a level of faith that they're not going to just put reason into the game. See, pride has, for me, the prison of pride is the prison of reasonableness. And one of the things that I think some of my friends love about me is that if they say, "Hey, I would love for this and that to happen," I'm there. Like I'll buy it with them. So, but before somebody can do that for me, I have to do that for myself, unless I'm going to like a spiritual master who's going to find agreement with me. So the question that you can ask yourself for the joy workout is, do I love myself enough to be in agreement with myself about whatever it is I really, really, really want in my heart? Do I love myself enough to know what's really, really in my heart? And do I love myself enough to either have agreement or lean into doing whatever it takes to find that agreement? Because that agreement between the mind and the heart, between the conscious and the subconscious, that agreement is faith. And when you feel in love, love bypasses all the feeling in love is a choice. If it wasn't a choice, then it would be what do they call that in India when they require, you're when you marry someone because you've been set up already. There's a word for it. A have to marriage. Anyway, the word was in my head a few minutes ago. When we fall in love or we choose to love somebody, it's by choice, and it's that choice that makes being human so amazing. And so then my favorite definition, I don't know if it was a definition, but it was an explanation that went along with the word faith. It came from Feminine Power, and they said, the teachers there said, faith is a choice. Faith is a choice. If it wasn't a choice, we would just be machines, right? And so leaning into faith, if I want to lean fully into the faith of a really big dream, I can't take pride with me. I have to go, if I'm going to feel in love, I have to go fully. And that's very, very, very exciting. And so I think one of the things that came to me during our art exhibit a few months ago in October is that the members within Joy-Based Living, especially those who are practiced, those who've been doing their homework for real, who've been asking themselves the question, what do I need in order to thrive? If I could have it all my way, what would I love to have happen? The over and over and over. I didn't realize it maybe at the time, but we've been like practicing faith and asking ourselves some of those questions on a regular basis and honoring each other within the answering of those questions. One of the things that I came to realize is that we are people who are believing each other into being. And so consider that as you think about our group of people who's just so amazing, because we don't do it with strings. We don't do it and say, well, you need to believe in, this particular dogma or way of religion or whatever. We just do it because we go, oh, you're in touch with your heart. You want to see that in your life. You want that love to grow in your life. Okay, let me see that with you. I'll hold that with you. So let's see, I wrote, pride is a prison of staying within reason that faith simply laughs at and keeps going. So, how easy is it for you to agree with yourself about who you are, about your desires? How easy is it for you to agree with yourself? Are you able to agree with yourself maybe on desires for survival, but not for thriving? Are you able to agree with yourself on desires that are within reason? Are you able to love yourself only if you do blah, 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 blah? Are you able to love yourself unconditionally? So that takes faith, right? So I think that's about it for the joy workout. I feel like I've just worked out with you. And I hope that you enjoyed this segment. I would love to know your thoughts. And thank you for being here with me. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Bye, everyone.